Hey, I'm Jeff Perkins. These are the Soundstripe Sessions. This is a podcast about the space between inspiration and execution. That's where the real story lives. We sit down with world-class creators and storytellers to unpack the craft, the creative decisions, the roadblocks, and the breakthroughs that shaped their best work. For anyone who makes things and wants to make them better. Hey, today I want to welcome Leo Falkenstein to the podcast. Leo is the owner of Consume Media, a creative video service company based in Atlanta. He founded the firm 13 years ago. Today they are doing video work for a range of high-profile clients like Calendly, SalesLoft, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, just to name a few. Leo is a big believer in the power of video to tell your story, and he's built a very successful business around that. So Leo, welcome. Thanks for being here, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm excited to be on the show.
Okay. Well, let's jump in. I want to start talking a little bit about your origin story. Tell us, where you grew up, where you came from, and how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an Atlanta native, born and bred. Grew up in the Dunwoody area. And the fun fact about me growing up is that I'm from Atlanta, but I'm a hockey player. Not too many of us. We are in the South. The hockey loving community is small, but that's who I am. So I'm very happy that the USA hockey team just won the gold medal not too long ago. I always loved writing and video and storytelling. From a young age. I remember even in fifth grade, I started writing my own novel that obviously didn't get very far, but it was fun. I liked it. And that was what I liked about the creative, was just writing and creating a story from nothing. And then when I was in college, YouTube was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I decided that I wanted to initially drop my business major to pursue a degree. It was called Mass Media Arts at the time at the University of Georgia. And I started learning about video. I loved it. And then while I'm in this major, I'm like, I really feel like I could differentiate myself if I got this degree and a business degree. So I added a second major. And then my junior year of college, I decided, I looked at my business partner one day. I said, let's do this. Let's start a video company. And we figure worst comes to worst, we got experience trying to start a business for the summer. And best case scenario is we have a business that we can run and operate after college. And fortunately, everything worked out. And here we are 13, 14 years later.
It's an amazing story. So you went to University of Georgia, correct?
Correct.
So you're all Atlanta, Dunwoody to UGA, you live in Dunwoody now?
I live in Brookhaven now, but yes,
Brookhaven.
I lived in Atlanta my whole life, went 60 miles down the road to the University of Georgia and came right back home.
Amazing. Homegrown success story. So you're in college, you start this little video company. Who were you doing projects for back in the day? I mean, who were your clients when you're in college, and how did you convince them to pay you to do the work?
Well, we started in the fun stuff, University of Georgia, Athens, Georgia has a very vibrant music scene. And I was going to a lot of shows at the time and became friends with some bands around town. And that's where we wanted to be. We wanted to be in the entertainment industry. So I remember, how did we get our first client? So first we just started doing a bunch of free work to people just to build a portfolio, right? And then AthFest comes around 2 months after we started the company. And we're like, okay, let's get on Facebook and message every single band that is going to be at AthFest and see if anyone will pay us. Well, we got a little bit of interest. No one did anything. We ended up filming some more free stuff at AthFest that year. But then a month after AthFest, we get a response from actually a very big band now, Yacht Rock Review, if you've heard of them. Their manager is like, oh, I'm so sorry we missed this. I'd love for you to come film our show at Piedmont Park next month. And we're like, cool. Yeah, we'll be there. They're like, how much does it cost? I'm like, I don't know. And we ultimately talked to some people that we knew, figured out how we should price it. And obviously, we were doing pretty low rates at the time. It was our first real paid gig. But ended up doing work with them for several years. We used that as our portfolio and started getting some clients around town. We were doing music videos, mostly live concert films, though. That's what we actually specialized in, and had a corporate gig here and there. But really, by the time we graduated, we had built something real. Like when people thought about who we want to film our live concert in Athens, we were the company that would come up. And again, we're not charging a lot of money for it. We're charging enough money that we feel like we have a business. But again, while we weren't like a successful business, we had built a great brand in that space and we had a good reputation. Then you graduate and realize, hey, let's see what we can do in the entertainment space, but ultimately got our first real corporate client, a company called Terminus, and did some work for them. And that company paid us more than the entire entertainment industry combined in that year. And we started looking at the numbers. We're like, I think we should move our business away from the entertainment industry and move into corporate video marketing.
Yeah, those corporate gigs are much more lucrative than the fun music festival gigs.
And
But
you're working nights and weekends. Like
yeah,
it even like at 25, like you start to get tired of working nights and weekends. So, and then I can't imagine if I was 35 like I am now doing that.
but tell me a little bit about shooting a band. I mean, what are you trying to do? What shots do you want to get? I mean, I've been to plenty of concerts. You see the film crews around, but what's the key to a great live performance video? Since you've shot a lot of them.
Yeah, so by the time we were kind of at our peak, we were doing like 8 camera shoots. That was like our go-to package was like an 8 camera shoot. And we would do that with 3 people. So what we would do is typically I was the guy at the front of the house next to the soundboard. I had a wide shot and I had like a zoom lens that I was sniping with. And I was also monitoring audio. Then I had 2 folks at the very front, like right in front of the stage, or sometimes on stage, depending on the setup. One person focusing on one side mostly, and one person focusing on the other side. So you're at 4 cameras there, and you just put cameras all over the stage, right? You put a camera that just runs on the drummer the whole time. You put another GoPro on the drums. You put a GoPro on the keys, and you just kind of that's really the gig is just like how much can you capture with just a handful of people. So it's a lot of static cameras and then a handful of moving dynamic cameras.
And that's a lot of footage to then go back through after you finish. The filming is one thing, but then the editorial process must just take forever to
Yeah,
get
but
a
at
really
the
full
time,
video.
at the time we were using Final Cut X. That was like our editing software. And it had a fantastic multicam feature where it just listens to the audio and syncs it. And then you get like an 8 camera window that you can just like boop, switch to this, boop, switch to this, boop, switch to that. And that's how you kind of start is just kind of live cutting it. And then you go back and you finesse it and you finesse it and you finesse it. So, you know, it's not as much it's not like as detailed as having to watch every second of every camera, right? You sync it up and then kind of basically play switcher as you're editing.
What's the biggest band that you shot?
The biggest band was a contract gig, but we had opportunities to film with Widespread Panic, STS9, and Humphreys McGee.
Oh,
And
wow.
those were really cool opportunities. Those weren't like direct consume media was hired. We were contracted by another company to do that. Probably the biggest band that we were hired to do is a band called Moon Taxi, and we did some good work for them. They had a McDonald's song, the All Day or All Night was on the McDonald's track for a while, so that was our little claim to fame for a little bit.
That's great. Yeah, Moon Taxi just played here in Sandy Springs. It was probably a couple months ago. And the only reason I knew they were playing is I was at a restaurant and the whole crew was at the bar with me because I didn't even realize they were playing. But they're like, "Come see Moon Taxi," and they were just out in the green space at Sandy Springs. That's cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they were fun to film, and we really became friends with the folks at Perpetual Groove, if you've heard of them. They were so fun. We hung out with them a lot, did a lot of work for them. They didn't blow up quite like Moon Taxi did, but they're kind of Athens legends.
Yeah. Did you ever capture a moment when you were filming live performances that you were just blown away by? And I always think, I've watched a lot of concert videos, and I think probably the one that sticks out most to me is probably the most iconic is the one where Lil Yachty is walking out at a music festival, and just like the whole way they capture him coming out, and then they're behind him, and you just see him in the crowd, and it's like a magical scene. Like I'm not a Lil Yachty fan, but I watched it. I was like, wow, that's a great performance. And everyone says it's the hardest walkout ever. But do you ever capture anything like that where you just, you're in the moment, you're filming, and then afterwards you watch a video, you're like, whoa, look at what we got.
That's a great question. Like, honestly, I'll be honest, nothing immediately comes to mind as you ask that question. Like, it becomes your job, right? It becomes your job that, like, when you're in the moment, you are focused, right? You're just focused. And I remember as I was filming, like, Humphreys McGee, which was one of my favorite bands at the time. I remember being up there and just like, oh, the concert's over. Like, I didn't enjoy that. I did good at my job and I'm happy about it, but it was like I enjoyed it. Like I was smiling ear to ear as I was doing it or something like that. And then again, you edit all this footage kind of day in, day out. I'm sure there was a moment, but it's your job. It's different than watching and just seeing something epic, I think.
Yeah, I guess work takes the enjoyment, some of the enjoyment out of the live concert experience. I could see that. So, what's interesting about you, Leo, is that you've had one job your whole career, which is
Correct.
unusual for most people. You're in college, you start this little company. Almost 14 years later, you're still going strong. You're probably bigger than ever. You've got employees and a team. But at any point on the journey, were you just thinking, this is too hard, or being my own boss sounds great, but it's so challenging. Did you ever just say, hey, I'm just going to hang it up and go work for a production company, or go do just, be an employee rather than being the boss and owner?
I think the easiest time to quit anything is right after you first start, right? You haven't built anything yet. And the stakes of walking away are pretty small, right? So I always wanted this to be my job, but there were definitely moments where I'm like, oh, like I've been running this company for 2 years. I'm qualified for this job. It would be easier. It's cool. Like I said, like I love hockey, so I started looking at jobs in like the NHL and things like that. I'm like, this would be cool, right? But then you get further and further and further on, and you get better and better and better, and your company's bigger, and there is more at stake. You don't want to quit, right? You want to build something that's just fantastic, and you want to be your own boss. Now, being your own boss is, now, I would imagine, is way harder than having a job, right? A corporate job. But it's also so fulfilling. You just love it. You get to build something that is yours. So I think the short answer is, yeah, I thought about it in the early innings, but uh, and there are a ton of difficult moments where I'm stressed and thinking about what it could be like to be less stressed, right? But never a moment where I actually thought, like, at least recently, let's turn the page, let's move on to something new.
Yeah. The hard thing about your kind of business, a services business, because I've had a ton of friends that have started agencies and run consulting firms, and the sentiment I always get from them is that they're always 6 months away from being out of business. And you land like the big client, you land the big account, but it's for a project, and then you can't celebrate because you have to fill that pipeline, because in 6 months that project's going away, and you have to have the next 5 projects lined up. I mean, that's a tough way to work, right?
It is. I mean, it's you're right. You don't really celebrate for more than a couple minutes after you sign a big deal, because that big deal is only going to last for so long. You have to be consistently building pipeline. And really, in my business, building pipeline is building relationships, right? We're really in the relationship space, even though we sell something very specific. We get a lot of business because of referrals and because of repeat clients and because of relationships. But you're right. It's difficult for an agency to grow and scale. You have to hit a bunch of big breaks in a row. Um, and then you have to leverage those big breaks for the next opportunity. And that's hard.
Yeah, so what was your big break? What was the moment that you just looked at the business and you're like, we've kind of crossed the chasm. We this is a real thing. We've made it. We're gonna be good. What was that for you?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest like time period of our business where we saw the biggest growth was actually during COVID. Um, which is interesting because you would think, oh, no one's filming anything during COVID, right? No one wants to be 6 feet away, 600 feet away from you, right? But what we did to cross that bridge was basically, again, there was several months where we weren't filming anything. So I looked at my entire team and said, hey, the only way I can keep you is if you learn a different skill set, right? So at the time, we were filming pretty much exclusively like talking head videos, right? But I looked at my team and said, I need you to become a motion designer. I need you to become an animator. I need you to do this, right? And everyone was up for it. They're like, okay, like I'm up for this challenge. And then we became very good at doing animated work. And then when everyone was ready for filming again, we had twice as many service offerings and people wanted twice as much business. And we quite literally doubled our revenue between the beginning of COVID and, 18, 24 months after COVID. So that was huge, right? That was like our biggest strategic shift that played out well for us. And at that point, we were hiring people, and it was like, okay, like, yeah, it's been, you know, 7, 8 years at this point, right? But it was like, okay, we've hit something. There's absolutely no turning back now. Let's go.
Yeah, COVID was an interesting time for a lot of businesses. I ran a business called Park Mobile at that time, and we're an app where you pay for parking, and nobody was parking, and so our revenue overnight went down 95%. I've never seen anything like it. But similar to your story, we pivoted. We said, all right, let's double down on sales. Let's focus on getting more cities onto the Park mobile app, even though we're not going to see the transactions anytime soon. And let's keep our employees. Let's, like you did, like let's keep the employees, but let's put them into different roles within the company. And we came out of COVID and we were just a rocket ship because even though we had the worst revenue year in our history, we had the best sales year in our history as far as signing up new cities for Park Mobile. And then we came out of it. And so it's a good lesson of sometimes these seemingly catastrophic events for a business sometimes create opportunities to pivot, to do different things. And I'm sure your business is much more successful today because you had that experience and you're in a better place going forward.
Yeah, we are. But at the same time, it would have been so easy to crumble, right? Been like, oh, we can't do anything. I have to lay off all my team. It's back to me and my business partner. Oh, do we need to get jobs? No, but it's about, the saying pressure creates diamonds, right? You have to like be under pressure to do something new and unique and different. And it worked out for us.
Yeah. So let's pivot a little bit to the creative process because you're a creative. You tell stories for your clients using video. Um, Talk about your process. Where do you start? How do you come up with the ideas for your clients?
Well, every type of project is different, right? Like we say we have three different service lines. There's the cinematic service line, which is like a television commercial, actors, locations, things like that. There is what we call authentic video, which is, talking head mostly, like, me interviewing you, Jeff, or a testimonial or culture content. And then there's animated, which is animated video, right? So, and each of them have a very unique starting point. For example, the easiest is kind of the authentic stuff, right? We just need to figure out what the story we're going to try to tell is, put together a messaging outline, and figure out the most creative way to tell that story. That's fairly simple. Animated videos, it's a blank slate, right? You need to, we need to follow their brand guidelines. We still need to follow a story, but how we bring it to life is just our imagination, right? And we have fantastic creatives on our team who specialize in motion design and animation, and they're putting their heads together for each project and say, oh, what if we tried this? Oh, what if we did this particle do this thing and turn into this? Like, so like the world's your oyster. And then with cinematic content, like, it just starts with an idea, right? What is the story, the idea of the story that we want to tell? And it can be, for example, Georgia Farm Bureau. We do 2 or 3 commercials with them every year. And for them, it's like we've done things as crazy as let's put a guy in a life vest in Lake Lanier and make a metaphor to insurance too. We've done things about let's be on a peach farm and have a dad talk to his daughter about why Georgia Farm Bureau Insurance makes him feel good that he has it. And you can go a million different directions in the middle, right? So hopefully that answers your question. The type of video ultimately creates a different starting point for where you start and where you go from there.
What kind of inputs do you need from your clients to kind of get going? I mean, are clients coming to you saying, "Hey, Leo, we want a video about a dad and daughter talking about farming," or are they saying, "Here's the problem we're trying to solve. Come back to us on ideas." How much freedom do they give you when it comes to trying to figure out what the best idea is for their business or for their brand?
Yeah, it's kind of 50-50. Sometimes they have an idea in their head and they just want refinement. They're like, I love this idea. Help us refine it and go. And sometimes we'll have a discovery call and say, okay, what is your tagline that you're going after? What is your biggest pain point right now? What do people not understand? Or what do we need to double down on? And then we just create a story based off these inputs, right? Again, usually we'll pitch like 5 different options based off that information. It's like, do you like story A, B, C, D, or E? And usually it's like, oh, I actually really like story B, but I really like this part about story C. What if we weave that in? And that just gets everyone thinking and combining and being creative, which is fun. And that's where we have the most fun. Of course, we love when a client comes to us with a great idea and we execute it. But it's always, of course, more fun when you're bringing your own ideas to the table.
Yeah. Um, what makes a good client in your mind? I worked in advertising for a long time. I've been a client of firms like Consume. But what really makes a good client? Because sometimes, having worked in ad agencies for almost 10 years, I had some good clients, I had some bad clients, I had some awful clients. But help me understand what makes a good client that enables you to do the best work on behalf of that client.
It's very simple, Jeff. The most important thing is to have a single point of contact who is a fantastic communicator. That is it. Because if you have a single point of contact who can take the feedback from their team, communicate it cleanly and efficiently to our team, they've already kind of done the back and forth on their end, and they come to us and say, hey, here's what we want. We definitely want A, B, and C. D, like we think we want this, but we're willing to hear you out if you think you have a different idea. Versus the opposite is when you have 8 people giving contradictory feedback, and the feedback's hard to interpret. People are disagreeing with each other. That becomes just very difficult. Like, you don't know who to listen to. The project gets stalled. You have to have a bunch of extra phone calls just to unblock the project. So I think it's simple. A single point of contact is a great communicator.
Clear direction is the most important thing, right? Yeah, it's you don't get that all the time, though. Sometimes it's very, very challenging, but just getting the clear direction, what problem are you trying to solve, and then giving you probably the latitude to solve the problem. Yeah, I worked on some very big corporate accounts like Procter and Gamble, GlaxoSmithKline, Volvo Cars. These were very, very big bureaucratic organizations, and you would present concepts to committees. And that was always highly challenging because literally you can present it to committee, and then each person on the committee would get to give their point of view on what they just saw and what they liked, what they didn't like. which is very hard for as an agency. You come away with that, you're like, what do we do now?
Yeah, we have to get to a certain point with a client where we decide that a live feedback session is acceptable. Because if it's a first time client, we don't know them that well. Who knows what's going to come out of their mouth? What if they say, "I hate this script. I can't believe someone wrote this." Right? Like no one said that directly, but we had been on calls before where we're just like, "Wow, they're saying this for the first time and oh, this is uncomfortable."
Have you ever fired a client?
I've been very, 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 very close. I've wanted to fire two clients. The first one is because they would not listen to me. And then they would ask me why we did something. And I said, it was your idea because you did not listen to us, and was rude about it. And the second one was just a very tight timeline. And we got feedback. We were it was the type of thing where we loved working with most of the folks, but then the CEO would come in and just poo poo on everything. And it was a tight deadline. We call that the swoop and poop. When you come out of nowhere and start pooping on it, and it's a tight deadline. We're like, wow, what are we supposed to do? We got approval from three of your team members, and now you just hate it. So those were the two moments where I wanted to, but we ultimately did not.
Um, so you've been in this video production world for a long time. What's changed in the last 14 years? I assume there's, what you started back in your dorm at UGA, it probably doesn't really, it's much different now. Tell me a little bit about the evolution of you as you've seen it.
Well, when we started the business, again, YouTube was in its infancy, right? YouTube was mostly being used for original content and like, funny stuff or like music videos or whatever. And companies were starting to host their content on YouTube. At that point, they might have been hosting content on YouTube and not even putting it on their website. Like that wasn't even a best practice, was to put your brand video on your website. It was put it on YouTube and hope people come across our YouTube page and see it. That was literally how people would think about video. And we often were disappointed because we were creating great content and you look at it a year later, it's got 14 views because it wasn't anywhere anyone would see it, right? So that's where we started. And then it became video is a fantastic marketing tool. There's so many new marketing automations and technologies, and we can make video part of our marketing strategy. And most recently, I actually have recently been saying that the term video marketing, which is the name of our industry, is outdated because video can be used for so much beyond marketing. I started calling it video connection because it's not about using video to market. It's using video to connect with the right audience at the right time using the right piece of content. So that could mean a video that's strictly used for sales enablement. It could be a video that is for customer success and no one ever sees it in sales. It could be a video that is used to recruit and onboard talent. So it's just about connecting with the audience at the right time. And that's where we're seeing the industry going. And most recently, in the last year, the new tools with generative AI video are just mind blowing, right? It's changing everything so quickly. The biggest things that we are seeing is that clients are now expecting more value for the same dollar, but at the same time, they're saying, how can we cut through the clutter? There's so much video, right? So it's a challenge. And what we've done is done two different things to solve those two different problems. We do have some solutions to help our clients get more value for the more dollar or for the same dollar. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that that piece of content is going to help you cut through the clutter. That might be for a very specific purpose. But if you need something to cut through the clutter, you got to do things differently. We started using a tool called interactive video, where it's like a choose your own adventure sort of journey. And that's unique. That's interesting. That cuts through the clutter, but it's not getting you more for the same dollar. That's actually a premium. So things are changing, but we have to evolve. Agencies have to evolve. Clients' expectations are evolving, and the key is just to stay ahead of everything.
And what about the cost? It seems like the costs have just come down rapidly. Have you seen that? Just because, when I would produce television commercials, they were always hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce a single television commercial. I couldn't imagine spending that much today, just because we used to shoot on film, right? There was just a physical cost of film. Digital doesn't have that same cost. It seems that the cost of the equipment has come down. It just seems like you're able to do a lot more with, leaner teams, less expensive equipment, and still produce a very high quality output. Are you seeing that?
Yes, it's certainly true. I mean, commercials are the ones, at least since we've been producing commercials, the cost or the expectations hasn't changed drastically. Now, the thing about expectations is that because there is a better ability to repurpose an A/B test, like for example, sometimes we'll go on a shoot and rather than one 30-second commercial, we'll make 8 pieces of content and it's got a different hook line. We do 8 different hook lines at the beginning or something to see what resonates, right? So for us, we're trying to provide more value, more options so that they can test and get more better data and better results, right? And that's like the commercial side. With like the more just like talking head side, yes, technology's gotten easier. So we're saying, hey, pay the same money, but instead of getting 5 videos, get 25 videos. And that's super compelling for our clients. And animated videos are kind of starting to get there too. We're a little bit away, but there's new technology coming out for animation that is mind blowing. So our pitch is not spend less. Our pitch is spend what you were expecting to spend or what you spent last year, but we're going to provide more value.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really smart because, the old way of, hey, we're going to do this big commercial shoot and it's a 6-month process and, pre-production, post-production, it's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the final output is one 30-second piece of film that you could play on, prime time. Now it seems what you're saying is you still might do a big commercial and you still might spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you may come away with 25 assets from that.
That is
Here's your television commercial. Here's your longer form YouTube video. Here are your shorts. Here's your social media videos, but you can do it all within that one shoot, which makes those production dollars go a lot farther.
exactly. And yeah, clients are excited about it. They usually have someone who's like ahead of growth or ahead of paid media or something like that, who you say, hey, give me options and I'm going to figure out what works best for my brand. Yeah, let's do it.
So let's talk about channels, because video can go out through so many channels now. Where are you seeing the most demand for video? Like where you're doing video, are they all for YouTube? Are you doing TikTok, Insta, all of the above? Tell me about the channel mix that you're seeing out there.
Yeah, the primary channel that we create for is website and sales enablement. Because think about it, if someone's on your website, they're probably somewhat interested, they're wanting to learn more. And if someone is in your, talking to a sales rep, that same type of content is super relevant, right? So we're working with B2B, long sales cycles, lots of buyers. And you really want to always have new, fresh content to answer any question or to talk about the new feature or the most exciting feature or the feature that's in demand. That's probably where, we do most of like the highest percentage of our work, I would say. It might only be 40%, but the highest percentage of our work. Probably if I'm just like spitballing numbers, like 30% of it is probably social first. But we kind of combine social and blog content in that same category because they're doing the same thing, right? They're brand awareness pieces of content. And then the rest is going to be like a mix. Sometimes it's just, the how-to portal, right? Sometimes it is a video that only 100 people are ever going to see because it's an onboarding video and they're going to onboard 100 people in the next 3 years and they're going to use it and they're going to need a new video. Sometimes it's a video for investors and it's literally just going to play in one board meeting and it's got to make a huge impact, right? And that's kind of what it comes back to. Again, it's not video marketing, it's video connection. And if this one video can make that connection and make that impact, it becomes all the more valuable.
Let's talk a little bit more about AI and how AI is changing everything from a video creation perspective. You said before that you're using AI, you see a lot of potential in AI. Talk a little bit more about that. What tools are you using? How are you uh, integrating AI into your workflow?
Absolutely. I will say that obviously ChatGPT, general AI is incredibly mind blowing. The technology specifically around video is like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like it's beyond mind blowing where we have gone in 2 years from nothing to literally having tools like Sora and Nano Banana where you can say make this person do this. And like I like to give the examples like a commercial, right? Let's say we wanted a shot of a person on Mars in a banana suit jumping up and down, doing a backflip, giving a thumbs up. That's a $35 to $40,000 shot. Just that. And now you can prompt that. And again, it's when you prompt things, it's kind of like a slot machine, right? Like you don't really know where you're going to get. So you're going to have to pull it a few times and ultimately you'll land there. But like, it's crazy that that technology exists. Um, Again, animation, like there's new tools like runway. You can give like a first frame and a last frame and see like what it will animate, what it will do. There's this new Claude code tool that's crazy. It's like coding animation that we're looking into. It like just came out a few weeks ago and we're like, what? It's crazy. So like the technology is just insane. And where we think we're best positioned is like we have great skill sets. We have a lot of experience in video. And I think what we are able to do better than just someone who's trying AI for the first time is take our unique ability in storytelling, our unique ability in graphics and animation, and formatting, and making sure that we have different assets that all do different types of things. And basically taking our unique our abilities that we've been learning and layering that on top of this new AI technology. But to answer your question, it's just insane. I am constantly blown away. Like I was just had a meeting with my business partner the other day, and we were just talking about these new tools that just keep coming out and keep coming out, and it's somewhat intimidating. But at the same time, we look at each other like, if we can harness this ability and put our incredible and give our incredible team and educate them and teach them how to use this, like we're unique in the marketplace, and that's exciting.
Yeah. And what I liked that you said there is that it's not a replacement for great storytelling, though. It's a tool for storytellers that it's going to enable you to probably move faster, probably save money also. That's the big thing with that I see with AI video. If I wanted to have a very specific scene for some kind of video I'm working on, my choices in the past were either to go, spend a lot of money and shoot something, or to go through a stock library and try to find something that matched exactly what I was looking for, which you're never going to find. You're never going to find that exact match. Now you can actually find that exact match. It's kind of like stock video on steroids, right? Because you could get to something that fits your project exactly, as opposed to settling for something because you don't want to spend the money on a shoot.
It's so true. And we're literally working on a project like that right now. They came to us and they said, yeah, we want a video that has a bunch of stock footage in it. And we pitched them back. We're like, well, the stock footage is going to be the same stock footage that your competitors are using, right? Like, there's not that much stock footage of insurance agents out there. Let's be real, right? But what if we created an AI video and we could put your colors and we could create an office and we can do this? And they're like, all right, let's try that. And that's what we're working on right now. It's going to be a 90-second video, and almost every shot is going to be generated through AI. Like on similar but different, it's like I have clients, like there are some clients who will do multiple commercials with us every year and they'll spend the money and they're excited about it and they love it. And they have some clients that like they will never come to me with a 50 or 75 or $100,000 budget for a commercial. They just never will do that. They're just not that type of company. But if I said, hey, I could produce you a cinematic ad for a fraction of that, would that be interesting? Then they get excited.
When you think about the pricing for that, it's got to be a lot different, obviously, because the overhead just goes away. Other than the people, right? You still need the people who are going to prompt the scenes, edit the scenes, stitch the story together. And that's the thing that I still, AI is still not going to replace. You have to, when you're doing a video, how do you let it breathe? How do you capture that exact expression on someone's face? You probably have to, in the past, you would just shoot it a bunch of different ways. Now you have to just keep prompting the AI tool to keep generating different facial expressions, right?
Pretty much. You start with a still and say, hey, animate this or bring this to life. And yeah, sometimes you're going to love it and sometimes you're going to say, try again.
So I want to talk a little bit about music because these are the Soundstripe sessions,
Yep.
and we do love our music at Soundstripe. So talk a little bit about how you pick songs for your projects. What's the approach there?
Yeah. So we love Soundstripe. First of all, we
Thank you.
love Soundstripe. I think we've been a Soundstripe customer for 5 years, and I was actually recorded a testimonial for you guys, and I had one line, and I swear by it. I say, I give my team a budget and say, find the best tool every year, and they pick Soundstripe every year. Like they stopped evaluating new tools recently because you guys are just such a great platform. So shout out to you guys. And what we've done recently is in our kickoff call with a client, we have a music slide just to get them thinking about music. And it says, what is the genre? What is the tone? What's the mood? What is the instrumentation? And it gives them options that they can look at. And we just hear what they have to say because they know what sound resonates with their brand, or at least they think they do, right? They at least have an answer. We rarely have someone say, I don't have an answer for this, you guys pick. And if they want us to pick, we'll pick. But they give us some general direction that they think feels right. And the options that we give them match up with the search settings inside of Soundstripe, right? So if they say, I want a rock film score that's uplifting and has drums in it, we check those boxes and see if we find something that we really like. And I know that there is like a see similar options feature. So if it's like it's almost there, but it's not there, I know we use that tool. I know we started using Soup, the AI tool, to help recommend options. But that's generally our process. And we let our editors be in charge of finding the music. So every one of our editors has access to Soundstripe and they pick different options. And usually, I mean, more often than not, the clients really like the music that we select. And if they don't like it, then we either try again, or if it's not working on the second time, we'll be like, oh, well, here's 5 options. You listen. What do you like? And sometimes they find the perfect one for them. And that's generally our process. And I'll say that ever since we added the slide in our kickoff deck, which was probably 6 or 8 months ago, we haven't been doing it for that long. We get a lot less comments just saying this music isn't right. If they say this music isn't right, we could say, hey, well, in our kickoff call, you said you like this, 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 and this. Is this still what you're thinking? And it keeps that conversation going. And ultimately, we always land on a great spot. And I don't think we've used any tool outside of Soundstripe in years. There were times previously with previous vendors where we had like 3 different subscriptions and we had to go from one subscription to the other, and then we couldn't find one, and then we needed to pay $60 extra for a track because it wasn't part of our subscription. Now everything is in Soundstripe, and I don't think we've used any songs outside of Soundstripe in years.
Oh, we appreciate that, Leo. So what I liked about what you said, though, is so you're actually thinking about the music before you're starting on the creative development. You're trying to kind of get a sense of the sonic brand for the companies you're working with. Is that correct?
That is exactly correct. And again, it's a new process that we started recently. And I'll be honest, I didn't think it was a good idea. I'm like, this is too early. We're not ready for this. And my team told me, no, Leo, you're wrong. And I said, cool, I'm wrong, go for it. And it's worked. It really, really, really works.
Yeah. Having done tons of videos myself, I'll plead guilty to the fact that I was the guy who was the spot's done. Now just put a background track in there. Just pick something out of the library, give me 3 options and you pick one. And I think being in this role, I've really seen the difference between a thoughtful approach to music selection and just like, generic background filler. And it really makes a big difference. We were just, one of our songs was just in a Ford commercial, and it was this very like high energy, hard driving type commercial, and they picked like the perfect song from our library for it. And it was a great example of how the song can really elevate the visuals, and they work together. It just makes the whole media work a lot harder and essentially be a lot more impactful to the viewer.
I love it. And I agree. I think when I think about music, I think there's like three different categories of successful music. Number one is you listen to the music and you're just like, I feel this. This is right. This is elevating the piece of content. Sometimes you literally just want to make sure your music's not distracting, right? And if your music is not distracting, it is doing its job, and that is great. And then there's a third category, which is my favorite, which is the polarizing music suggestion. And we put a song in there. Like I remember there was one that was like some Caribbean like party song, and it was super hypey, and we're listening to it on our all hands meeting. We're all just like dancing, having fun. The client loves it, and then they're like, I love it. This member hates it, but like I love it. And like but that's kind of like it gets people talking, right? And that's interesting as well.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're watching a lot of videos and all the background music sounds similar, it's you're just going to scroll by. Whereas if you have some
Mhm.
kind of audio cue that's really different,
Yeah,
it's going to make people pay attention, right?
it is.
And even if it's different from a brand perspective, you're like, what? I wasn't expecting a Caribbean song for Georgia Farm Bureau, or it has an opportunity to grab someone a little bit more and to bring them in, and then to consume the message that you're trying to deliver to them.
Exactly. And that's how we felt. We're like, this is fun. We are having fun watching this video. And that says something in of itself.
All right. So tell me this: of everything you've worked on, you've probably done thousands and thousands of videos in your career. What's the one project you're most proud of?
Easy answer. And it's actually a Georgia Farm Bureau spot. Um, a few years ago, there was a Budweiser Super Bowl spot called Typical Americans. I don't know if you remember it, but it basically has this like sarcastic tone about, you know, this person's doing this, typical American, this typical American. And it was always like, it was saying positive things about it. And we took that same approach for the agriculture industry. So we were saying like all of these like things that people probably say about farmers and kind of showing the opposite, right?
Mm.
Like, for example, we'd say, farmers use an outdated technology, and it just shows them using like this crazy technology that people didn't know that farmers had. And it was just an incredible storytelling. And I remember watching that ad when it was complete. And I seriously, I was in my basement. It was probably midnight. I was working too late, and I started tearing up. And I'm like, my team produced this. Like, we charged X amount of money for this, but this looks like an $1 million spot to me. And I just remember that feeling that and just being so proud of my team. Not even me. Like, I don't do a lot of client delivery, but I was proud of the organization and the people, and I guess the culture that I did help create at the company, that we could make something like this. So for me, it's the we called it the future of ag, and it actually won a Telly Award.
Amazing. Amazing. And so if people want to see that video, they go to YouTube and just Google the future of ag, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Correct.
All right, perfect. So this is the last question for you. This is a question I ask to every guest. So if you can give 18-year-old Leo one piece of advice or nugget of wisdom, what would that be?
I would say never stop learning. Like, just never stop learning. And like there's so much information out there. It's even more now than there was when I was 18, that sometimes it's hard to pick what you want to learn about, right? Um, but just having that growth mindset to always feel like you're learning something new every day, that compounds, right? If you learn one tiny thing every single day over the course of, you know, 17 years, that's 18 years ago, or 17 years ago, I was 18. Like, you just gain a ton of wisdom and a ton of experience. And um, it's hard. I can't say that I even now learn one new thing every day, but I try to. And it's a hard habit to get into. Um, Especially because sometimes you're just like, "Ugh, I don't have the brain power to learn something new right now." Like, we've all felt that. It's like you're tired. You don't have the brain power to learn something new right now. But it's so important. And especially today with everything changing so fast with technology, it's you have to. If I do not learn something new every day, and my team does not learn new things every day, we'll be out of business. So we just have to have that mindset.
That's great. Well, Leo, thank you for being here. If people want to get in touch with you, where should they go?
Yeah, so you can learn about Consume Media at consume-media.com. And I post on LinkedIn way too much. So if you want to see what I have to say, look at my name, Leo Falkenstein. I'm pretty sure I'm still the only one in the world, or at least the only one on LinkedIn. And you can follow me, connect with me, and be happy to chat.
All right. Check out Consume Media and Leo Falkenstein on LinkedIn. Again, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe on our YouTube page and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you at the next Soundstripe session. Soundstripe is the leading music licensing platform, offering the highest quality music produced by award-winning artists and innovative tools to find the perfect song for your project. Soundstripe has over 100,000 audio tracks along with sound effects and video assets. We provide comprehensive licensing coverage, whether it's a broadcast TV spot, social media video, or podcast. Soundstripe helps turn an average video into an unforgettable story. Learn more and sign up for a free account at soundstripe.com.